Hello and welcome. I'm Anand Naidoo filling in for Riz Khan. Every once in a while, someone comes along with a personal mission to make the world a better place. Michael Franti, an American poet, musician and activist for peace and justice, decided to visit some of the hotspots of the Middle East to see for himself what was going on. With a guitar and a video camera, he went to Iraq, the West Bank, Gaza and Israel to investigate the human cost of war. He shares his experiences in the new documentary, I Know I'm Not Alone, which is set to the music that his personal journey inspired. Let's take a look at a clip from the movie.
In Saddam days, the electricity was better. The water, even the water, there's very little we are getting in there. The most of the day, there is no water in the tap. There is no security, there is no stability. What is the point? What are they doing?
Don't forget, we take your calls on the show. You can reach us at the numbers that are right there at the bottom of your screen. Michael Franti joins us now from San Francisco. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Anand.
We just looked at that excerpt there from the documentary. It's a very close-up view of the war in Iraq, very disturbing in some respects, very unsettling. It's the kind of image that we see in that excerpt there in the documentary is not something that we see often in the mainstream media. Was it very risky to get that close to the Iraqis on the streets?
Well, I certainly felt danger all the time while I was on the streets of Baghdad and throughout the West Bank. But you know, I really felt like I had a sense of purpose, a reason to be there, and so I put my fear to the side and just went about playing music for people on the street and then talking to them about their lives.
Well, you say you had a reason to go there. You, of course, went to Baghdad, and thereafter you went to the West Bank, Gaza, and Israel as well. What was the motivation for you making this documentary?
Well, like most people who watch the nightly news, I felt like I wasn't being told the whole story. You know, here's Bush and Cheney and Colin Powell saying they're weapons of mass destruction, and there are none. They're saying that Saddam was involved in 9/11, and he wasn't. And yet we've had 4 years of war raging on there, and they continue to never in America discuss what is happening with the people of Iraq, or the people who are U.S. soldiers, or the people really in the West Bank and Gaza and in Israel too. And I wanted to see firsthand what life was like for people living there.
You know, you talk about the human cost. There is a scene in the documentary which I found, I watched the entire documentary, and I found this particular scene, it was very honest, it was very powerful. You actually go into a children's hospital with your crew, and you're filming the children who are in hospital over there. What went through your mind when you walked into that hospital?
Well, the first thing is the conditions. You know, I visited hospitals all around the world playing for people, but I've never seen anything like the hospitals in Baghdad, where the plaster has fallen from the ceiling, the light fixtures are broken, just from the shaking of bombing nearby. The toilets don't work, there's sewage water that's in the hallways. And then to see these hundreds of children who are suffering from not only blast injuries, but from cancer, which has been brought about by depleted uranium weapons that were dropped in Iraq during the first Gulf War, and right on up to today. The lack of medicine, the lack of food, the lack of basic things like antibiotics that could cure infection, and people losing limbs because of medication, not having medication that we can get in any drugstore in America.
You know, I was wondering, when you go to a place like Baghdad, to Iraq, and you see so much devastation, and there has been so much death, so much injuries over there, so much damage, when you walk away from a place like that, did you walk away with a feeling of hope, or was it a feeling of hopelessness?
Well, I came away from it in general with the feeling of hope. And the reason for that is because I felt and saw the resilience of the people. You know, when I went there, I was expecting people to be very hostile towards me, but in fact the opposite was true. People came up to me on the street and said, please sing songs for us. They welcomed me into their homes. They brought me food, and families that didn't have enough food to feed themselves, they invited their neighbors to come and bring food for myself and my crew. And yet people were living under these conditions where they have no security, no safety, no water, no food, no electricity, no access to health care. But still they are you know, fighting this battle of just everyday living, and at the same time having to live with the U.S. military in their lives every day. And so I got a deeper understanding of the situation there, but I felt like the situation is so confusing. It has so many layers of politics, economics, religion, race, all put into it, that it's a really big mess. But I believe in the people, that the people want to have peace and freedom and safety throughout the Middle East, and I believe that it will come.
Okay, let's get a call from one of our viewers. Anwar is calling us from London. Anwar, go ahead with your call.
Oh, hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello, Anwar.
Michael, I'm very glad that you have produced this documentary. What I want to know is this: is it possible for you to show your documentary in Israeli and Arab countries and in America mainstream, so that the rest of the world learns from this? The only tragedy has been with this war in Iraq and other places, especially in Palestine, is that the hidden people have not been able to tell the American people what actually is happening on the ground. And I wish, and I want you to please show this documentary in America, in Britain, in Europe, so that people realize what is the truth, how the people are really suffering.
Okay,
Thank
thank you, Anwar. Thanks for that call. Michael?
Yeah, Anwar, thank you so much for that encouragement, because we've been doing everything that we can to show the film all over the States. I've been touring with the film over the last year at universities, at schools, we've offered the film to people to show in their churches, their synagogues, their mosques, their homes, and we're planning events in Israel. We're planning to take the film to Palestine and hopefully back to Iraq one day. And you're right, exactly what you said is what I found there, is that the people who are, you know, the lowest among us, their voices are the ones that aren't being heard. And so much of the conversation in America is about politics. Is Bush going to lose the election because of the war? Is somebody else going to win the election because of the war? Nobody's thinking about what are the people having to deal with while people are concerned about winning and losing elections. And so I think it's really important that people throughout the world get this information and understand that we are in the majority, those of us who are among the 6 billion people on this planet who want peace and safety.
Michael, when you were in Baghdad making this documentary, did you have a chance to speak to U.S. troops?
I did. I spoke to U.S. troops. I went and played for them when they were off duty. And the thing that struck me the most was almost all of them said to me, Michael, before I came here, I believed in what we were doing. I even met one man who said that he signed up for the Army on September 12th, 2001, the day after September 11th, because he thought he was doing the right thing, protecting America. And like I said before, he thought there were weapons of mass destruction and Saddam was involved in 9/11. Now that they found out that those things are lies.
Apologies, we seem to have lost that link there to Michael Franti in San Francisco. We'll try to re-establish that link. Let's go to Street Talk. We'll take a look at that and try to get back to Michael Franti. Well, I'm being told...
Hello?
Well, Michael Franti is back.
Okay.
We'll watch Street Talk a little bit later. Michael, we lost you there for just a minute, but you were telling us about your visit with U.S. troops.
Yeah, most of the troops that I spoke to said that they believed that they were doing the right thing when they went there. And I met one gentleman who signed up on September 12th, the day after September 11th, in order to defend his country. And then he gets there and he finds out that there are no weapons of mass destruction. Saddam was not involved in 9/11, and they wonder why we're here. And the troops have told me, those who have come back, that there's this argument put forth in America that if we set a deadline to when we're going to pull out from Iraq, that we're going to be somehow letting the troops down. All the soldiers that I've spoken to said, if we set a deadline for when the war is going to end, the troops are going to raise their hands up in the air and cheer and say, thank you for getting us out of this mess.
You know, you also went on to Gaza from Baghdad, and did you find that the situation in Gaza was very different, because the conflict there has of course been going on for a much, much longer time than it has been in Iraq?
I've traveled around to many places in the world. I've never seen poverty like I have in Gaza. I've never seen a group of people who have been beaten down so systematically and for such a long time that they have this feeling of hopelessness. And to go to people's homes who have had their homes demolished by bulldozers, to speak to people who have lost family members and who are living without anything. It was really alarming to see that this story is not getting out to the rest of the world. I also traveled to Israel and I met people who had lost family members in the conflict there, people who had been the victims of suicide bombings. I went to attacks, places where attacks had taken place there. And I saw this pain and suffering that Israeli people are going through. And I really hope and believe that there are enough people in the world who want change to take place, that it can happen, and there can be eventual justice, economic stability for people living in Gaza and the West Bank, and at the same time, safety for people in Israel.
Well, as you say, during your visit to Gaza, you found a lot of hopelessness, you found a lot of poverty, yet there is a scene in the movie where you do bring some laughter to children in Gaza. You're on the street with them and you're singing with them. Let's take a look at that clip.
It was so amazing to see kids whose families had had their homes demolished, who had been shot at, who had been beaten, whose parents were dead, who were so excited and so happy to be around music.
So, Michael, in that scene there, you did bring some happiness to the children there in Gaza. You also talked with a group of Israeli soldiers. Where exactly did that conversation take place? It looked like a border post of some kind.
Yeah, I had conversations with Israeli soldiers all over Israel and all over the West Bank and Gaza, but there's one scene in the movie where we're in the village of Jayus, and it's at a gate where villagers whose olive farms have been divided from their community by the wall and the fence that's been built, and so every day these farmers have to pass through this gate and show their identification to these young soldiers just to work in their olive fields, and there's a lot of tension in that community, and so one of the soldiers was talking to me and saying, we don't hate the Palestinian people, and so I said, well, why don't you tell them? They're right here. And so I invited this group of Palestinian youth and these soldiers together to come have a conversation.
Actually, we do have a clip of those Israeli soldiers talking to you and the Palestinians. Let's take a look at that clip.
Great.
Do you think that I want to be here? That I want this and that I want this and that I want not to be at home 3 weeks?
Yeah.
I like my home. I want to be with my mother, with my sister, with my brother.
Yeah.
They love me.
Yeah.
I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
I do this for one reason.
Yeah.
Because I love my country.
Yeah.
Because I want my mother go to work and don't die.
Yeah.
I want to my sister go to school with not scared.
Yeah.
An Israeli soldier there expressing his fears, talking to Michael Franti at a border post. We have another caller on the line. This is Zayed. He's calling us from London. Zayed, go ahead with your call.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
I hear you, Zaid.
Oh, okay. Good evening, Michael. I want to thank you very much for what you have done. It's really inspirational. First of all, I want to say I wish I could share with you that I'm originally from Somalia, and same thing like almost happening in Somalia. We're having a civil war there, and so many things are happening, and no one notices and no one knows about it. I wish someone could go in there and did some sort of things that what you have done in Iraq and Gaza. Getting back on the issue now, just want also comment if it's possible, if you can put on the internet, on YouTube and stuff, so many millions of people can share and see what's going on around the world, and they will be more educated about the human cost of the war, not just what we see on the news media, just a few seconds clips. We can see the whole documentary on the human cost, what's going on, and the suffering of civilians. Thank you very much.
Okay, Michael, I'm not sure whether you heard all of that question.
I did, yeah.
Oh, you did. Great. Go ahead.
Yeah, the next film that we want to do is in Africa. We want to go to a number of countries in Africa where there's conflict, because that's a whole nother place that, especially in America, we see nothing about on the news, and incredible death, incredible human suffering that's taking place. So we're going to try to do that next. In terms of getting the film out, we've actually...
Our apologies, we've lost Michael Franti again, and I'm afraid that's where we're going to have to end that interview. Michael, thanks for being with us. I hope you can hear us. All next week, join Riz Khan. He'll be back, not here, he'll be live from Amman in Jordan, and that's where the Riz Khan show will be coming from. Don't forget, if you have any thoughts or pressing issues around the world, send us your emails. Send them to riz@aljazeera.net. We're going to leave you with a clip from Michael Franti's song Revolution. See you next time, and after that, it's Street Talk.
A revolution never comes.